Welcome to Books Arena. In this audiobook, we will explore Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This is the story of a boy who was born into a system that made his existence illegal. It is the story of growing up in apartheid and post-apartheid South Africa, a country divided by race, language, and poverty. But it is also the story of a strong mother, a clever child, and the power of humor and language to survive the impossible. Trevor Noah was born in 1984 to a black Xhosa mother and a white Swiss father. At the time, South Africa's apartheid laws made interracial relationships illegal. That meant Trevor's very existence was considered a crime. He could not walk openly with either of his parents. He had to be hidden. His mother often had to pretend to be his nanny, walking on the other side of the street so they would not be seen together. His mother, Patricia Noah, is one of the most powerful figures in the book. She was brave, stubborn, deeply religious, and determined to give her son a better life. She broke the rules not out of rebellion, but because she believed her son deserved more than what the system allowed. She taught him English so he could rise above his environment. She took him to 3 churches every Sunday to protect his soul. And she made sure he knew how to think for himself. Growing up, Trevor was never truly part of any group. He was not black enough to be accepted by black kids. He was not white. And he was not quite colored, the mixed race category in South Africa. But instead of letting this make him feel lost, Trevor used it to his advantage. He learned to speak many languages. He became a listener, an observer. He figured out how to belong anywhere by becoming anyone. In this audiobook, we will break down Born a Crime into 7 parts. Each part will explore different stories from Trevor's life from childhood to his teenage years to young adulthood. We will look at how he learned to survive poverty, racism, domestic violence, and more. But we will also see how he found joy, laughter, and meaning in even the hardest times. This is more than just a story about South Africa. It is about the universal experience of feeling like an outsider. It is about the love between a mother and a son. And it is about using what you have, your voice, your wit, your mind, to change your life. So join me, here on Books Arena, as we begin this incredible journey through Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Part 1, Born a Crime. Trevor Noah was born during apartheid in South Africa. Apartheid was a system where laws separated people based on their race. Under the system, it was illegal for a white person and a black person to have a relationship. But Trevor's mother, Patricia, was black, and his father, Robert, was white. Their relationship was a crime. So when Trevor was born, he was literally born a crime. His mother had to hide him from the world. She could not walk down the street holding his hand. If the police saw them together, they might take Trevor away or arrest her. To protect him, she would walk on one side of the street, and Trevor would walk on the other. Sometimes, she told people she was just the maid. His father could not be seen with him either. When they spent time together, it was always in secret. Trevor's mother was a very strong and smart woman. She knew how dangerous the world was, but she still chose to have a child. She believed in God, and she believed in doing what was right, even when it was against the law. She raised Trevor with love, discipline, and faith. She spoke English with him because she believed that speaking English would open doors. In South Africa, English was the language of education, business, and government. Patricia taught Trevor to read early. She made him go to church every Sunday 3 times. In the morning, they went to a white church. In the afternoon, a mixed-race church. And in the evening, a black church. She believed it was important for Trevor to see all kinds of people and understand how they worshipped and lived. Their life was not easy. They were poor, and they lived in places where they were not always welcome. But Patricia made sure Trevor never felt like a victim. She taught him to be proud of himself. She taught him that he was special, not because he was mixed race, but because he was loved and chosen. Trevor learned early on how to adapt. He could not fit in with just one group, so he became good at fitting in with everyone. He learned different languages: Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana, Afrikaans, and English. When he spoke to people in their own language, they trusted him more. He used language to make friends, to avoid trouble, and to understand the world around him. One powerful story from this part of the book is when Trevor and his mother were in a minibus taxi. The driver started acting strange and dangerous. Patricia noticed something was wrong and made a quick decision. She opened the door and told Trevor to jump out of the moving van. He was scared but did it. She jumped right after him. They rolled on the ground and escaped safely. That story shows how quick-thinking and brave his mother was. She would do anything to protect her son. Being mixed race in South Africa at that time was confusing. Black kids sometimes made fun of him because he looked too light. White people saw him as black. Colored people saw him as different from them too. He did not belong to any group fully. But instead of letting that hurt him, Trevor used it. He watched, he listened, and he learned how people acted. This skill, being able to read people, became very important in his life. Many children around the world grow up between cultures, between languages, or between communities. Trevor's story shows how painful that can be, but also how it can be powerful. Children who learn how to move between worlds often grow up strong, smart, and understanding. They know how to talk to people from all walks of life. They learn how to solve problems and how to stay safe. In this part of Born a Crime, we see the foundation of who Trevor is. A boy who was not supposed to exist. A boy raised by a mother who broke the rules to give him a better life. A boy who learned how to survive by being smart, by being funny, and by being kind. This is just the beginning of his story. Part 2, The Language of Belonging. When Trevor started school, he faced a new kind of challenge. At home, he was used to being different. But school made those differences even more clear. He was placed in a school where the children were mostly white or colored. He was one of the few mixed-race kids and one of the very few who spoke multiple African languages. Most people did not know where to place him. Was he black? Was he white? Was he colored? He did not fit in neatly anywhere. But instead of feeling lost, Trevor found a secret power: he could speak to everyone. He used language like a bridge. Trevor spoke English, which helped him succeed in school. But he also spoke Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana, and Afrikaans. He listened to how people spoke and picked up their words and rhythms. When he spoke to someone in their own language, their attitude changed. They smiled. They welcomed him. They trusted him. One day, some boys tried to bully him. They were speaking Zulu, not knowing he understood them. Trevor waited, then answered them in perfect Zulu. The boys were shocked and then they laughed. They backed off. That moment taught him something big: when you speak someone's language, you are no longer a stranger. His ability to switch languages helped him survive in a divided country. It also helped him make friends across racial lines. While other kids stuck to their own group, Trevor moved between them. At lunch, he might play soccer with the black kids. Later, he would joke with the colored kids using their slang. He was like water, able to flow into any space. But not everything came easy. Even though apartheid was over on paper, the school system still had deep divisions. Black kids often had fewer resources. Some teachers treated them with less respect. There were invisible rules everywhere. Trevor learned to spot them and avoid trouble. He also learned how to stand out for the right reasons. He started using humor to win people over. If he could make the class laugh, the teacher saw him as clever, not disruptive. If he could make the tough kids laugh, they would leave him alone. Jokes became his way of controlling the room. At home, life was getting more complicated. Trevor's stepfather, Abel, entered the picture. At first, Abel seemed like a good man, friendly, hardworking, and charming. But slowly, his temper began to show. He drank too much. He became violent. Trevor and his mother were often scared, but his mother tried to stay strong. She believed things would get better. She prayed. She hoped. She protected Trevor the best she could. Through all this, Trevor kept learning. He paid attention to how people acted and spoke. He copied voices. He told stories. He made jokes. Even when things were dark at home, he used humor to keep his spirit alive. Outside school, he started to hustle. He sold candy to classmates. Later, he would sell music CDs in the neighborhood. These small businesses taught him a lot about people: what they liked, how they made decisions, and how they responded to confidence. Trevor realized he did not need a lot of money or power to succeed. He just needed creativity, courage, and the ability to connect with others. Trevor's life during this time was full of contradictions. He lived in a country where laws had changed, but many hearts had not. He lived in a home with love and danger at the same time. He belonged everywhere and nowhere. But instead of giving up, he kept finding ways to move forward. Part 3, The hustle begins. As Trevor became a teenager, his world began to change even more. He was no longer a small boy hiding from the rules of apartheid. Now, he was growing up in a free South Africa, but that freedom did not mean life was easy. It just meant he had new choices to make, and new problems to solve. Trevor started to explore the world outside of school more deeply. He spent more time with friends in the township of Alexandra, one of the poorest and most crowded places in Johannesburg. Life in Alexandra was tough, but it was also full of energy, music, and survival. People there knew how to make a little go a long way. Trevor was a curious and smart teenager. He was always looking for ways to earn money. He knew his mother worked hard, and he wanted to help himself too. One of his first real hustles was burning CDs. He had access to a computer, which many people around him did not. He downloaded music, burned it onto blank CDs, and sold them. He understood what people wanted: popular songs, love songs, gospel music, and he gave it to them. Before long, he had a small business. He even hired others to help him. One friend ran the music stand. Another helped with collections. Trevor managed the money. He was not just a hustler, he was a young entrepreneur. But selling music was not just about money. It was also about identity. In a place where people wore knock-off shoes and second-hand clothes, music was one way they could express themselves. People felt powerful when they heard their favorite songs. Trevor gave them that feeling, and they loved him for it. Still, there were risks. One day, a group of police officers stopped Trevor and his friend. They thought he was doing something illegal. They searched him and asked where he got the CDs. Trevor, as always, stayed calm. He knew how to talk his way out of trouble. That skill, using words and humor, helped him avoid danger more than once. At home, things were becoming harder. His stepfather Abel's drinking got worse. He became violent more often. Trevor and his mother lived with fear. But even during this hard time, his mother continued to support him. She still took him to church. She still pushed him to read. She believed that knowledge and faith could protect them. Trevor also started to discover the power of storytelling. He would tell stories to his friends about things that happened at school, at home, or on the street. People listened to him. They laughed. They paid attention. This was the early sign of the comedian he would later become. One day, Trevor tried something new. He started a small business helping people write love letters. Many of the boys in the township had crushes on girls, but they did not know how to express their feelings. Trevor wrote letters for them, using sweet words and poetic lines. The girls loved the letters, and the boys loved the results. Trevor had once again found a way to make something out of nothing. But things were not always smooth. Some people felt jealous of his success. Others tried to cheat him. Trevor learned to be careful about who to trust. He learned that not everyone who smiled at you was a friend. These lessons were hard, but they were real. Part 4, Love, Lies, and Lessons. As Trevor entered his late teens, he began to experience more of life's emotional highs and lows. He was still hustling, still making money through his CD business, and still moving between different social groups using humor, language, and charm. But now, new challenges were entering his life, especially around love and relationships. Trevor tells the story of his first real romantic relationship with a girl named Maylene. He was shy, nervous, and unsure how to talk to girls. But with the help of his friend, Teddy, he managed to start dating her. They spent time together after school, and Trevor believed he was finally experiencing love. However, there was a problem. Trevor did not speak directly to Maylene very much. Most of their communication went through Teddy. Trevor thought this was normal until the day of the school dance, when he asked Maylene to go with him. She looked confused and said she was already going with Teddy. Trevor was crushed. He had been used. His friend had been dating her the whole time. Trevor had been writing letters and buying snacks, but Maylene had never actually been his girlfriend. It was a painful lesson in trust, communication, and the importance of speaking for yourself. This was not the only time Trevor would be disappointed in love. He tells another story about dating a beautiful girl named Babaki. He invited her to a school dance and was proud to be seen with someone so attractive. But when he tried to talk to her at the dance, she said nothing. Only later did he find out she did not speak any of the same languages as him. They had no way to communicate. It was a funny and sad moment that showed how much can go wrong when people assume instead of asking questions. These stories are filled with humor, but they also teach serious lessons. In both cases, Trevor thought things were going well, but he missed the most important part: real connection. His experiences show that love, like everything else in life, requires effort, honesty, and clear communication. Outside of romance, Trevor was also learning more about the larger world. He was beginning to understand how money, race, and status affected people's choices. For example, in the township where he sold CDs, many people saw him as successful. But when he went to more affluent neighborhoods, he saw how far behind he really was. He was living in two different South Africas, one full of poverty and hustle, and one full of wealth and privilege. He began to feel the pressure of choosing his path. Would he continue hustling, or would he try something bigger? His mother always pushed him toward education, faith, and a better future. But he was also tempted by quick money, popularity, and street life. At home, things were still dangerous. His stepfather Abel's violence had not stopped. Trevor's mother had tried to leave him, but the legal system failed to protect her. Abel was still around, still drinking, still angry. Trevor hated him, but he also feared him. His mother stayed strong, but even her strength had limits. One moment that stands out in this part of the book is when Trevor gets a job at a call center. It is one of his first formal jobs, and it shows him a different kind of work: organized, professional, and structured. He learns how to deal with difficult customers, how to speak clearly, and how to stay patient. It is not his dream job, but it gives him new skills and helps him see the world beyond the township. Throughout these teenage years, Trevor continues to use his greatest tools: language, humor, and observation. He watches how people behave, and he adjusts. He is always learning. Even when things go wrong, he finds a way to turn them into stories. That ability to reflect, to laugh at himself, and to keep going is what makes his journey powerful. Here at Books Arena, we see how Trevor's teenage mistakes and heartbreaks are not just funny stories. They are lessons about identity, self-worth, and finding your voice. Many people go through similar experiences: feeling left out, getting hurt in relationships, or trying to fit in. Trevor shows us that even these painful moments can lead to growth. Part 5, Dancing with Danger. By the time Trevor was in his late teens, he had built a full street business. He was no longer just burning CDs, he was also selling video games, doing small tech repairs, and even buying and reselling second-hand items. He had learned how to make money in a world where jobs were scarce, and the system was not designed for young black men to succeed. But with more business came more risk. Trevor's closest business partner during this time was a boy named Sizwe. Sizwe was street smart, quiet, and always focused. He had grown up in the tough township of Alexandra and knew how to survive there. Together, they made a good team. Trevor handled the ideas and planning, and Sizwe handled the operations and the street side of things. One of their biggest successes came from selling pirated CDs and DVDs. In the early 2000s, these were very popular. Most people could not afford original versions, so Trevor and Sizwe provided what people wanted at a lower cost. They knew it was technically illegal, but they also knew that for many people in the township, this was the only way to access entertainment. Trevor became known as the CD guy. He even started DJing at parties. He would bring his sound system, play music, and entertain crowds. At one party, things went wrong when someone got shot outside. It was a wake-up call. Trevor realized that even if he was just the DJ, danger was always nearby. Still, he kept hustling. He made enough money to buy nicer clothes, help out at home, and even consider moving into better circles. But deep down, he knew this was not a long-term path. The streets had rules, and breaking them could cost you your life. One powerful story in this part of the book is about Trevor's friend Tom. Tom was one of the few white kids who would visit the townships. One day, Tom accidentally said something disrespectful to a local gang member. The situation turned serious very quickly. Trevor had to step in, speak the local language, and calm the situation down. That moment reminded him of how fragile peace was and how quickly things could fall apart. At the same time, life at home was not improving. His stepfather Abel had opened his own garage business, but his drinking made things worse. He was jealous of Trevor's success. He insulted Trevor. He abused his mother. Trevor wanted to fight back, but he was still afraid. His mother was doing everything she could to protect both of them, but the violence kept coming. Even with all the stress at home and on the street, Trevor never stopped learning. He studied people. He studied the system. He used humor to keep people on his side. He learned how to calm angry customers, deal with police, and avoid fights. These skills were not taught in school, but they were just as important for survival. One day, Trevor's business came crashing down. A local criminal broke into his storage place and stole all his stock CDs, speakers, games, and money. It was a huge loss. Trevor was devastated. But instead of giving up, he did what he always did: he adapted. He accepted the loss, learned from it, and started to think about new paths. At Books Arena, we often highlight how real-life challenges shape character. Trevor's experiences in this part of the book show how easy it is for young people to get pulled into dangerous situations when they are just trying to survive. But they also show how important it is to be smart, flexible, and aware. Trevor's story is not just about making money. It is about figuring out who you are in a world that keeps trying to define you. Even when he was close to real danger, he never lost sight of the future. He always believed that he could do more if he just kept learning, watching, and growing. Part 6. The Breaking Point. As Trevor entered early adulthood, the danger at home finally reached a boiling point. For years, his stepfather Abel had controlled the household through fear and violence. Trevor and his mother had tried everything: staying quiet, praying, moving out, but nothing worked for long. Abel's anger always found its way back to them. Trevor had grown used to fear. It had become part of daily life. But as he became older and stronger, he started to push back. He was no longer a small boy. He was now a young man, and he hated seeing his mother suffer. The tension between Trevor and Abel grew worse each day. Trevor had always been careful to avoid direct fights with Abel. He knew that his stepfather was dangerous. But the day came when everything changed. One night, after another violent argument, Abel shot Trevor's mother. She had finally decided to leave him for good. She had packed her things and walked away. Abel followed her to the street, pulled out a gun, and shot her in the back of the head. Then he shot her again in the leg. Trevor got the call and rushed to the hospital. He thought she was dead. Everyone did. But something unbelievable happened: his mother survived. The bullet that hit her in the head had passed through her skull without touching the brain. It had gone in and out, missing everything vital. It was nothing short of a miracle. When Trevor saw her in the hospital, he was filled with shock and relief. She smiled at him and said, "This could have been worse." That moment changed Trevor forever. He had lived through poverty, racism, rejection, and fear, but now he had come face to face with death in his own family. He realized that life was fragile, and time was limited. He had to act. He had to move forward. He tried to take legal action against Abel. But the police did not take it seriously. They told Trevor that because his mother had survived, the case was not urgent. They did not even arrest Abel at first. It was a painful reminder that the justice system did not protect women like his mother. It also showed how broken South Africa's laws still were, even years after apartheid had ended. Trevor was furious. But his mother, once again, remained calm. She forgave Abel. She said that holding on to anger would only destroy her from the inside. That strength shocked Trevor. He could not understand how she could forgive the man who tried to kill her. But she explained that forgiveness was not about him, it was about her own peace. Trevor's mother taught him the most important lesson of his life that day. No matter what people do to you, you have the power to choose your response. You can choose anger, or you can choose peace. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to be a survivor. This moment became a turning point in Trevor's life. He began to see his story differently. He realized that he had something rare: a mother who never gave up, a life that had survived violence, and a voice that could reach others. It was around this time that Trevor began thinking more seriously about comedy. He had always told jokes and funny stories to survive. Now, he wanted to use those stories to help others. He saw comedy not just as entertainment, but as a way to heal, to connect, and to tell the truth. At Books Arena, we believe stories like this remind us how strong people can be, even in the worst situations. Trevor's mother should not have had to survive a gunshot to teach the world a lesson, but she did. And from her pain came hope, wisdom, and an example that has inspired millions. This part of Born a Crime is emotional and powerful. It reminds us that behind every strong person is often a story full of pain. But it also reminds us that pain does not have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something greater. Part 7, Finding His Voice. After everything Trevor had been through, poverty, racism, heartbreak, near-death experiences, he stood at a crossroads. His mother had survived being shot. His hustle business was behind him. He had no university degree. He did not have a job. But he had something more powerful than all of that, his voice. Trevor always knew how to make people laugh. It had been his way of surviving as a child who did not fit in anywhere. He used humor to make people feel comfortable. He used it to avoid getting bullied. And now, as a young man in South Africa's new democracy, he began to realize that humor could also be his career. He started small, doing comedy sets at local clubs and events. At first, he was nervous. He doubted himself. But then something happened. People laughed. Not just a little, but a lot. He had a natural gift. He told stories that people related to. He spoke in different languages. He jumped between cultures. He connected people who were usually divided. In a country still healing from apartheid, this was powerful. Comedy was not just about jokes, it was about truth. Trevor would talk about racism, poverty, corruption, and daily life in a way that made people laugh, but also think. His voice became a bridge. He helped people see the world from different points of view. At one show, he joked about how speaking Afrikaans had once made him a target, but now, it made him funny. The very thing that once made him feel unsafe was now helping him connect with the crowd. This was a key lesson: our weaknesses can become strengths when we learn how to use them. Trevor's popularity grew. He started performing on radio and TV. He got invited to comedy festivals. His work caught the attention of international comedians, and soon, he was traveling the world. It was a long way from the townships of Soweto and Alexandra. But even as he rose in fame, he never forgot where he came from. He kept telling stories about his childhood, his mother, and his wild journey through South Africa's broken system. That honesty became the heart of his voice. It made him stand out. One example from real life that mirrors Trevor's journey is the story of Kevin Hart. Like Trevor, Kevin grew up in a poor, challenging environment with a difficult father. He used humor as a tool to deal with pain. Both comedians turned their past struggles into material that not only entertained but inspired people. Trevor did not become a global star overnight. There were still struggles. He faced racism even outside of South Africa. He was told he would never make it in America. But he kept going, one joke at a time. Eventually, his work led him to something many thought was impossible: a spot as the host of The Daily Show in the United States. When he was chosen to replace Jon Stewart, some people were confused. How could a kid from South Africa take over such an important show? But Trevor proved them wrong. He brought fresh ideas, global stories, and a unique voice. He showed that humor crosses borders. That pain and laughter exist in every country. That one person's story, when told well, can speak to millions. At Books Arena, we believe Born a Crime is not just a memoir, it is a lesson in courage. Trevor Noah's life teaches us that it does not matter where you start. What matters is how you respond to what life throws at you. His journey is a reminder that your voice, your real, honest voice, is your most powerful tool. In this final part of the book, Trevor is no longer just surviving. He is thriving. He has turned all the chaos of his past into a life with purpose. And while his story is unique, the message is universal: you can rise above your circumstances. You can heal. You can grow. And you can tell your story in a way that helps others find hope in their own. Thank you for following along with us through Born a Crime. Join us here at Books Arena for the final closing message, where we reflect on Trevor Noah's journey and what it means for all of us.